Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm here with Bart at the Arborist Supply, and today we're going to talk about felling a tree using a conventional notch. During this video, I will be using the Husqvarna 550 battery-powered ground saw and show you guys just how well this thing can rip. So as we're felling a tree, we want to talk about a couple things about our environment before we get into cutting. First, we want to make sure our drop zone is completely clear, and this goes for pulling teams when it comes to a rope and civilians. A good rule of thumb would be that the pulling team is going to be 1 to 1.5 lengths of the tree away from when the tree is going to fall. Civilians, dogs, children, etc. should be at least 2 lengths, if not more, away from the tree in a full 360-degree circle. Another thing about your drop zone, it should be completely clear of any debris you have fallen from the tree before that, any logs, brush, all of it should be clear in case of an emergency, that anyone who needs to can get out and there's nothing in your way. Second most important thing is going to be evacuation sites. So anyone on the pulling team or the person felling the tree itself should have a clear evacuation route. So if something were to go wrong in the worst case scenario, they have a way to get out and they're not just turning around into another tree and have nowhere to go. Third most important is communication, especially between a pulling team and the person cutting. They should have visible line of sight to each other if they can't hear when a chainsaw is running, or have someone in the middle that can communicate when to pull, when to stop pulling, when something has happened, and so on and so forth. So the 3 most important things are a clean drop zone, evacuation routes, and communication. So today we are going to use a normal conventional notch using a 45-degree angle. As a rule of thumb, this is your most widely used and normal notch that you will see just about anyone use. So first, to start my tree, I'm going to line up where I think the tree is naturally leaning with most of its weight, and looking at this spar that I will be felling today, coming off of its roots, it's leaning in this direction. So going with it, using its own weight and gravity to my advantage, because I will not have a pulling team today, using that gravity will help me fell this tree much safer and easier. So first thing, I will use my felling sight on my chainsaw. This line will shoot a line in my mind as to where I want to drop this tree. Wherever I turn my saw will point to where I want to go. So I will line it up with the direction it is leaning. Make sure it is completely flat by holding onto this top handle. And now I have where I want to go. Myself, I always do the top cut first in a notch. Some people do the bottom. I like the top because when you do the top and you're making the bottom one, you can see when your chainsaw meets that first cut with the second cut. That's just my preference and the way that I like to do it. So now when making your top cut, the best way to be able to gauge a 45-degree angle is holding this top corner of your handle here, letting it rest in your hand. Your bar now makes a 45-degree angle in at the tree. So now that I've made that angle, I'm still using my felling sight line, pointing it right in the direction I want to go, making sure everything is ready. Now I'm making sure my job site is clear, there's no one around. My team that is here knows what I'm doing, communication is open, and I will start cutting. A good rule of thumb for when making a notch, it should be no more than 1/3 of the diameter of the tree. This gives you 1/3 of a notch to cut, 1/3 of the tree for your back cut, and 1/3, if not less, for hold wood when your notch is being used in felling the tree. So now that I have made my top notch, I'm making sure I'm lining up my bottom cut with the very base of my first top cut. I'm going to grab this top bar, pull it around, make sure my felling sight is lined up, it's going where I want. Now I will start my bottom cut with the very base of my bar and wrap my bar around the tree to make sure it is flat, holding it so it's completely even and there's no angle going through the tree. So after completing my top and bottom cut, I've now cleaned the wedge out from my notch. I will now inspect my notch to make sure there's no debris. Any debris would be small pieces of wood left behind. It would be any pieces of sawdust that would prohibit the tree from falling in the notch the way that we want it to. I make sure there is nothing there, there's no bypass. Everything in my notch looks the way that it should. It should operate when I fell it right to where I want it to go. So as we're getting ready for our back cut, I would like to talk about notch size. It's a very controversial item when you talk about different arborists and tree fellers. Some guys say you need a bigger one. Some guys say you don't need it as deep, as aggressive. 100% depends on weight of the tree, gravity, its leaning, and what type of tree you're doing. Now today I am doing a spar. There's no weight up in the air. There's no wind moving it back and forth. It is not in as much need of an aggressive notch that's going to control it all the way through. Taller trees with more weight, more wind on them, different variables come into that. So before we make our back cut on our notch, we are going to scar the tree. Scarring the tree will help us make sure that our bar is flat when making our back cut, and it's going to help us be 1 to 1.5 inches above the base of that notch as we come through. A rule of thumb, 1 to 1.5 inches is where you want your back cut to come in. You don't want it to be below your notch, because below your notch might make the weight of your tree sit backwards instead of leaning into your notch the way that you want it to. When scarring the tree, I just lightly take the chain of my bar and I'm going to run it across the bark, not compromising the wood at all, just kind of making a visual line for myself, making sure that both sides are going to line up. It meets the bottom of both sides, and now I have a guide for myself as to where I want to put my bar. I want it to be a little bit above that scarring. So as I'm going through and I'm taking my bar through the tree, I can follow this line and make sure that I'm where I'm at. I'm not going at any angles. I'm going straight and flat right to where I want to be. So now I will start making my back cut, making sure my team is ready, communication is set, clear evacuation routes have been laid out, and we are good to go. As we're making our back cut, we want to keep it a safe practice of making sure that our bar on both ends is not getting close to our hinge wood. So as we're making our cut, it's perfectly safe to take a step away, come over, make sure I am not getting close to my notch, check both sides, make sure I'm coming in flat towards the notch. If I have the tip of my bar a little too far forward, I will now take the base and try to make it even, so as we're coming across, it'll make one flat cut and it will not be at any angles. As a rule of thumb, we do not want to ever cut more than 10% of our hinge wood as we're making our notch. Going past 10% can cause failure in our notch, making the weight of the tree go in an unexpected direction and not the way that we want it to. When needed, it is perfectly safe. If your bar does not reach to the full other side of the tree, it is safe to remove the bar from the tree, come around to the other side to make sure that your cut is going 100% through. My bar did not fully reach to the other side, so now I've cut more on that side than I have this side. There's some hold wood here on the outside of the bark. I want to make sure I get that flush cut all the way through to make sure that as my hinge wood works and I'm putting it to use in my notch, there's going to be nothing else prohibiting my hinge wood from working the way that I want it to. So now that we have gotten down to at least 10% of our hold wood, I have no pulling team, so I want to make sure my teams on the ground are well aware, and I will push from behind, If my notch works the way that it should, my tree will fall right where I wanted it to, with a good amount of hold wood still available and flush. Thank you guys for tuning in with Bartlett Arbor Supply. This has been a quick intro to felling a tree with a conventional notch. If you guys like to see more in-depth stuff, different notches and stuff like that, feel free to leave us a comment and let us know what you think. Don't forget to follow us, subscribe, and check us out on our app or our website. Thanks, guys.